We have a semi-truck company, electric semi-truck company. It calls itself Nikola, right? Poor Tesla. He's had both his first name and his last name stolen. In his lifetime, he was used by the rich guys, Edison and especially, and Westinghouse. They abused him. Now he's still being used by billionaires to make money. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, Nikola, the leading electric semi-truck manufacturer, has announced a massive recall of battery-powered commercial trucks due to concerns over a defective battery component that can cause fires. This is a result of an investigation into a fire at their own facility. Ominously, the truck caught fire when it was parked at their facility. A battery part was probably to blame for the coolant leak in one of the trucks. The battery overheated, which resulted in a fire. And so their safety and engineering team discovered a part inside the battery-powered truck that's probably to blame for the coolant leak. How many times do we have a coolant leak, an internal combustion engine that's going to cause a fire that could possibly burn down the entire place? When we look at this, very much like these electric buses that, in Germany, had a couple of fires. One of them burned down an entire bus station because there were other electrical buses that also caught fire and burned down the entire station. But that happened 2 different times. They got rid of them. In France, you had electric buses. I've shown pictures on the show of them just spontaneously combusting as they're parked. They got rid of them. In Canada, they had some electric buses. They caught fire, and they went back and reconverted them to diesel. I guess they detransitioned. That's what we would say. And then here in the U.S., we have the electric bus company that Lala Harris loves so much and that Biden gave so much money to. They've gone bankrupt. So they burned down in a different way. But these semis are going to be, I think, a much bigger fire hazard because I imagine they've got, I'm just guessing, but they've got to have a lot more power than even a bus does. Buses have really big power, battery array compared to an electric car. But the trucks are going to be much, much bigger. And of course, the trucks, there's going to be time pressure put on them. And they're going to be trying to do speed charging on these things as well. Instead of a supercharger, I think Tesla's got, I think they call it a hypercharger or something like that. Certainly there's a lot of hype involved. But 60% of the heavy-duty battery electric trucks that Nikola has produced over the last year are now part of this recall. Then Sam, listener, sent this to me. Driverless cars added again in San Francisco in a malfunction. And people in San Francisco are just furious about this. But, of course, they're powerless to do anything about it with the way their government is. Their government doesn't care if people go around and loot stores out of business. And, of course, they're going to allow these electric car companies to loot these people of their time and of everything else. They're going to just turn this over to their pals. That was where, if you notice, a few weeks ago, as this was coming up for reauthorization, they said just to show people how much we hate these things and how much they've been in the way of emergency vehicles, how much time they've cost everybody. If you see one of these things, you can take a cone, and if you just gently put it on the top, you don't damage the car or anything, but you make it stop, and we can stop these things with a cone on them, take pictures of them, and tell California we don't want it. Well, California doesn't care what they want. So they approve these things anyway. And we just had a 10-car driverless traffic jam. 10 of these Johnny cabs, no human driving them, blocked 2 narrow streets in the center of San Francisco, in the middle of the bar and restaurant district. People said they might as well have been boulders because nobody could move them. So the robo-taxis sat there with their parking lights flashing for 15 minutes before they woke up and then eventually moved on. We've had situations with this. This is Cruise, which is their driverless taxis for General Motors. They've had situations in the past where all of the taxis went to one intersection and then just stopped. create a massive traffic jam there. But here they are. They just 10 of them stop and put their blinkers on. So Aaron Peskin, who represents North Beach on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, said these robo-taxis could jam streets close in the event, could jam them closed in the event of a major emergency or a fire where people needed to evacuate an area. And of course, that's not a theory. They've already blocked firemen from being able to get to fires and that type of thing. Cruz, who oversees the project for General Motors, blamed cell phone carriers for the problem. Well, you think when there's an emergency, there's always going to be functional cell phones there? These cars will block everybody with everything. It makes me think of the time that we got stuck in Buffalo. They had a tremendous amount of it was the day before Thanksgiving, and we were driving through Buffalo. We just had to, we'd just been through a long thing with a legal fight over the sale of our business, and we just had to get out of there. I've told that story before. But we get up to Buffalo, and because of the lake effect, all of a sudden, massive amount of snow, and they are known for their big snowstorms. This is the most snow that had fallen in that period of time. They have different ways of doing it, right? The one that has the most total snow, or the one that lasts for the most days, or the one that has the most snow that falls at a particular time. And so at that point, it set that record, and it trapped people, is the point. A lot of people there in that area, because they're used to snow, the city has all these snow removal vehicles, and so people, a lot of them, did not have SUVs, and or anything like that. They had very small little subcompact cars, and the snow came down so quickly, they were getting stuck everywhere. And even if you had a car that could navigate through the snow, and we did, we couldn't get past them. They were blocking everything. Oh, it was a mess. People got stuck there for a couple of days. School buses couldn't get home, and they had kids who got stuck in fast food restaurants for a couple of days. It was insane. And that's what's going to happen with these things. You have an emergency, and power goes down, the grid goes down, cell phones go down. You're going to have these things stuck everywhere as obstacles, as boulders in the road that people can't get around. That literally going to break down. As I understand it, the phone outside lands impacted LTE cell connectivity and ability for RA advisors to route the cars. Well, they got an explanation, but of course, this is not a solution to what's going on. But one person said, if you're looking for an example of regulatory capture, you're seeing it now. It's unethical. It's immoral. Nobody in San Francisco apparently likes this. They all hate it, but it's being shoved down their throats. Why? It all goes back to the state government. They said, bottom line, this all goes back to Gavin Newsom, or as I call him, Grabbin Nuisance. Governor Grabbin Nuisance is pushing this. By the way, they're going to have these people who are going to try to push for gun control at this special session coming up next Monday here in Tennessee. The Democrats are going to bring in Grabbin Nuisance right after it for a fundraising dinner. This guy's really pushing to be president. He's put in a new California gas czar as well. And as Epoch Times says, of course, it will be responsible for boosting prices in California even higher, highest in the country. I have a real problem calling people in the American government a czar. Why do we have a king, a dictator, a Caesar? That's where it really comes from. We've crossed the Rubicon, haven't we, when we have a czar? It infuriated me when William Bennett, who bragged about his book of virtues, and then Reagan put him in as a drug czar. Oh, he loved that title. Like, you should be ashamed of that. But he wasn't ashamed of his drug war, and he wasn't ashamed of his drug czar title. It's Caesar. That's where you get the term czar, the Russian king, where you get the term Kaiser, the German king, and all the rest of the stuff. It's a Caesar, dictator, who's crossed the Rubicon. So they've got a gas dictator, a gas Caesar. He's going to seize the cars too. Little seizures all over the place, civil seizures. leading a new state agency that will watch over the oil markets for possible illegal activity that drives up the costs for Californians. A new bureaucracy that was just created, they call it the Division of Petroleum Market Oversight, was signed into law last March by Governor Gov Nuisance. And Nuisance's new law, of course, is going to make everything high. You know why they have high prices? It's real simple. They've got high taxes. And why are their prices so much higher than they are in high tax places like Oregon? Well, because in addition to the high prices, they dictate that there has to be special blends, custom blends of gasoline in California. So what is the solution to all this? Getting rid of these taxes and regulations? No, it's to add more taxes and regulations. And of course, that's going to make everything more expensive. The new oil watchdog office is part of Governor Nuisance's gas price gouging law. According to AAA, California currently suffers the highest gas prices in the country always, averaging $5.11 a gallon for regular. Neighboring Nevada, it's at $4.36. Arizona is $4. So, they're 25% higher than their neighbors there. And if you look at the lowest in the country, Mississippi, $3.32, and I say that's not that much different from what we saw in Tennessee and in Arkansas when we traveled a couple of weeks ago. If you compare it to that, California is 67% higher than Mississippi. Two-thirds higher. So Governor Nuisance said to the oil companies, prove that you're not price gouging. How do you prove a negative? He's the one who's gouging everybody. Again, with the bespoke blends and the high taxes, all this done by the state. The common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at davidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. davidknightshow.com.